Well, thank you, Henry, for inviting me. And I know we've tried to do this before and it didn't work out, but I'm very delighted to be with you today.
Excellent. And there's just so many points, so many areas of your particular study and research that are worth to highlight, they're worth to talk about and note and so forth. Obviously, we are not going to be able to cover them all in these 2 hours here that we're going to do today, 2 segments. But I'd like to, I guess, open up the floor just a little bit to you, Jordan, here at the beginning and ask if there's anything. Well, if I put it this way, the world is changing now drastically and very, very quick at this point. What are some of the most pressing issues, that you think are important to highlight that the world is facing right now, Jordan?
I think that probably one of the most important things that's happening to us today that worries me the most is that the human race is purposely, according to a well-laid scheme, the human race is purposely being mutated. We're being scientifically mutated from being the kind of humans that we were before to a different kind of creature on the earth in the coming 1,000 years that's coming. I don't think the human family, like we exist today, with parents and grandparents and human feelings and emotions, etc. I don't know for sure, but it appears to me that that's not going to be the case in the future, that the human family is going to be a completely different creation in the future. And that's what scares me the most, because the children will not be allowed to be children. There won't be any real emotions between people. We're being mutated out of our humanity and into some kind of a monstrosity of a creature that only responds to stimuli, only responds to orders. Like you can dream up the pictures of the poor people under Nazi Germany or under Stalin in Russia, in some kind of a fascist totalitarian world state. And that's not far-fetched, because we've had so many writers and authors talking about it, 1984 and Brave New World. Well, I think we've way past all of those stories now. I think we are seriously on the way to the mutation of the human family from being normal, regular human beings with caring and concern for each other and families. I don't think the human family arrangement is going to last a whole lot much longer.
Right.
And so I see that the entire Earth, the whole globe, is being commercially mutated, so that we will have lost all wisdom, knowledge, understanding, the love of history, the love of mystical secrets of the earth, all of the great and wondrous things that the earth has held as a mystery. The very heavens themselves are such a wonderful and beautiful mystery.
Yeah.
And when I talk to scientists here at JPL, that's right here in Los Angeles, Jet Propulsion Lab, and I go over there and talk to the astronomers and scientists and physicists, and I am just amazed that they have no concept of wonderment, like a child, just to wonder about the beauty of the heavens and what could be out there, and and what is the implications of the size of our universe, and just the wonder of creation. No, they have no wonder about it at all. It's all very, very sterile. It's all very, very nothing. It's just a job to them. This star is named this and that, and it's part of this and that, and we work for the government, and the government gives us our contracts, and we don't give a damn about anything spiritual or philosophical or anything in the wonder of the universe. We don't give a damn about none of that. It's just all very, very sterile, very heartless.
Yeah.
And therefore our science has given us, the world we live in today. which cares nothing for individual spirituality, cares nothing for family arrangements. It cares. Science today is nothing more than a religion.
That's right.
And I have often said that religion should be and could be a science, while on the other hand, science is a religion. We don't, in America especially, we're famous all over the world for having no scientists, zero. I think we've got maybe a handful, maybe 12 scientists in America. The rest are all on the payroll. All they do is what they're told to do. They get their checks from the government,
right?
And they know what to say and what not to say. And if they open their mouth and question something that's out of out of place, like out of place artifacts, or something very strange in science, if they bring that up, they will immediately be called into the office, relieved of their position. Their jobs are lost. Their paycheck is gone. No more grants from Gestapo or SS Gestapo.
Right.
The Führer in Berlin will see to it that they will no longer have a job, and they'll be chased out of town. So I sit with these scientists. I sit with authors and lecturers and teachers and astronauts and FBI agents and mafia officials. I've been all over the world. I sit and talk with people for the last 50 years. I know what's going on. And so I noticed something else that's very frightening in relation to the human race being mutated. And that is that every time a great master, someone who was a great mind, a great teacher, or a great inventor, or someone who's done something momentous for the human race, every time that person dies, everything that they have accomplished is immediately erased off the face of the earth. I could give you so many examples. Some of the more obvious examples were Nikola Tesla.
Sure.
Nikola Tesla, anyone who's done any homework on that man, realizes he gave us the modern day world, period. Radio, television, electronics, nuclear, television. I mean, all kinds of profound things and alternating current. He's lit up the world. He gave us radio. Radio was invented by Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest geniuses the world ever known. And yet, today, especially in America, nobody's ever heard of him. They wonder what football team he played on.
Right.
Did he play with the Lakers? Because in America, we don't know from nothing. And so why? It's because purposely great people like Nikola Tesla, our royal wife was another man,
Sure.
Royal wife, who, nobody's ever heard of royal wife. Nobody in America cares one way or the other.
Very few in Europe too, Jordan. Same thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very, very sad. Now I could go down the line and name off great minds who have contributed awesome to the well-being of the human race, who actually are not only not known, but what little bit is known of them are cursed and belittled and drugged through the dirt, and are presented as enemies of the human race. So I realize that the people who are running this planet today have in mind to mutate the human race and to mutate or to what I would call intervene in mankind's natural evolution. We in America are now living under something called arrested development. We can no longer think. We can no longer use our minds to judge the rightness or the wrongness of anything, because we have nothing to judge anything by. We're not educated. We're very poorly educated. We Americans can't find their own country on a map. They're ignorant. They're ill-informed. They're unread. They're pompous and arrogant and self-centered and egotistical. They're given to silliness, and it's just a horrible, horrible place to have to now operate in if you have a spirit and if you are intellectually inclined and spiritually inclined and have feelings. America is a horrible place to have to live now. And so there are so many good people here who do have great spirits and who do have a care for their families and human race. And they are confined to have to live now in a country that has no soul whatsoever. America is soulless. It has no value in anything. It's an incredible place to live today when you can talk to people about something of importance to the human family, and people will just look at you and stare at you.
Yeah.
Like you're some kind of a strange picture on the wall. They don't even know what you're talking about.
That's right.
And so that's why I today am in a horrible place in my life, because I've spent my entire life studying, reading, researching, comparing notes. I've got hundreds of bank boxes in storage of handwritten notes. I've got about 30 bank boxes of just handwritten notes on every subject that's conceivable to the human mind. Everything I could get my hands on was reading and studying it, questioning. And today, after all of that, 50 years of that kind of study, and specifically in the areas of religion, theology, occult theology, and government, today I am locked into a country that people look at me like an oddity. When I talk about my subjects in public, people look at me as if I must be from another world. Well, I figured out a long time ago what it amounts to, what my situation is. If you, as a normal human being, happen by chance to be invited to go for a tour of an insane asylum, and you're roaming around the grounds of that institution, which is filled with mentally disordered people who have to be locked up because they're mentally unstable, and retarded, and you walk through that facility and spend the day talking to people, everybody in that facility knows each other. Everyone in that facility has lived together with everyone else, and so they all have their little eccentricities, and they're all on the same level of mentally disordered, but they all get along together. They're all together, and they've lived together, so they're not. They don't have any problem living with each other. But you, as an outsider, you show up as an outsider, talking and asking them questions about science, religion, philosophy, government, and commerce, intelligent things that intelligent people would discuss, and they will all in the institution look at you like you're mentally deranged because you don't fit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening in America. People like myself don't fit. And my fellow Americans look at me as if I'm some kind of a monstrosity. They have no idea in the world when I'm talking about secret societies, Illuminati, and international high finance, and the manipulation of the human race, and how religion and occult philosophies manipulate our minds, and how they're manipulating great nations into wars, etc.
That's right.
And so.
Well, I totally agree with you, Jordan, and I personally believe that this is also now a worldwide plague, if you will, in that sense, that this is not at all restricted to America. This is in Europe, it is in other parts of the world. I personally obviously witness and see this every day in this former country called Sweden that now has sold itself over to the European Union and is going to change its own constitution going in here in 2011. And everything is, over in terms of, anything that has to do with the nation of Sweden anymore. But that's a side issue. This is a worldwide plague, basically. And the question here that you mentioned that you bring up here about this transformation that is taking place of the human being is an interesting one. It's a pertinent one to talk about. It is basically news items is revealed almost every day now that supports this particular theory. BBC talked the other day of the fact that they now have been able to change people's moral judgment by disrupting a certain area of the brain with magnetic pulses. Another
what I'm
news,
talking about.
exactly. Another news item came out. J. Craig Venter, the guy who's behind the Human Genome Project, has now created synthetic life first time successfully. A cell have now been able to be programmed by a computer, and this now can go around in its own environment and reprogram other cells. So this is called a new life form, and it's called Synthia. Is this what you're talking about? The scientific dictatorship, the technological singularity, transhumanism, right?
That's it. That's precisely what I'm talking about. Exactly, because I know I've sat and talked with physicists, scientists, astronauts. I have many friends in the government and industry and in the science community especially. I'm a member of certain scientific groups, and I sit and listen to these people who are explaining how the human mind works, how the stimuli is scientifically put together. To one day, it's not. Let me go back and say that if you're the captain of an oil tanker, one of the largest ships in the world, you cannot manipulate that ship like you do a Volkswagen. You can't run it like a car. You have to plan 20 miles ahead of time where you're going to direct that ship, because it has weight, momentum. It is too large to turn quickly, so you really have to know what you're doing if you're going to be a captain of an oil tanker or a captain of a great seafaring boat. So you have to know what you're doing and plan 15 to 20 miles ahead of time to where you want to be. Well, the same thing is happening today. The people who are manipulating the human race have already planned this as far back as the turn of the century in 1890s. There were already scientific people talking about the manipulation of the human psyche, the human mind, and redoing the whole human race. Classic example of some of the most brilliant people on the earth, and some of the most awesomely evil people on the earth, but extraordinarily brilliant people. The whole Nazi movement about the eugenics, and incidentally, eugenics, the Nazism and eugenics did not start in Germany. It had nothing to do with the Nazi people. It had nothing to do with the German people.
That's right.
Eugenics started in America. It started right here in Southern California, is where the concept of eugenics began, is right here in Los Angeles. And I can actually show you, it was large articles a few years ago in the Los Angeles Times talking about where did the concept of eugenics and the superior race of humans being developed on the earth, where did that come from? Well, it came from actually in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles, is where it was actually developed to start with. And from here, it fled into Europe, and from Europe, it set up the whole concept now for the whole world. But it was developed right here in Los Angeles, not by the Nazis, not by the German people at all. It was developed here in Los Angeles. So when I know that, and I understand who these people are and what they're doing, and what their long vision for the future, like a ship's captain, they have planned this a long time ago, before your parents were born. This was already on the board to be worked on. And this kind of knowledge is on a need-to-know basis, and the guys who are running this planet figure you don't need to know. You just go and watch your basketball and your sports and your soccer and drink your beer and stay out of the way, because somebody is manipulating and directing the whole human race into a hole. We are all going under. Our Earth is under arrested development. People all over the world can't even think anymore. They go with the flow, you know. So that's number one. I got plenty of other problems.
There's plenty of problems out there. But if I put it this way then, Jordan, even now in this day, this current age, the era we're in right now, it also seems like even the few little freedoms that humanity has, experienced during its brief little, time here, even they are now beginning to wane, of course, and we don't.
Of course.
The banking system is collapsing. People don't even have the money to go to the basketball game anymore, or the hockey, football game, what have you. It's tight to buy the beer that goes along with that, if you know what I mean. Things are changing.
Well, yeah,
on that
but
level.
I always tell Americans who say things like that, but that's okay, because in the concentration camps you're going into very soon, I'm sure they'll have football for you, because I know all the prisons today in America, at least they have TV, and so you can watch football and basketball in
That's right.
prison.
Yeah.
So even if you won't get the cold beer, but at least you'll be able to sit there and vegetate and watch football if you're in a federal prison or in concentration camps like we have in America. We got concentration camps all over this country, just waiting, but they're quietly letting us have one more holiday, but they're waiting very, very patiently, and very soon Americans are going to be going in and wholesale into concentration camps, into prisons, and the entire world is going to awake and find out that there is no hope for the human race. It's over. It's finished. The masters who own the human race, who feel that they own the human race and where we're going in our future, they're going to be, it's just going to be an iron boot in the face of humanity. So,
How responsible do you feel that we, as global, if you will, then citizens are in this process as well? Because it could be argued, of course, and there's two different stances on this. One is that we are participatory in it because we've allowed it to happen. Another stance on this is, no, we've actually been manipulated into this position. We've been progressively or slowly indoctrinated and dumbed down, as it's called, meaning that we, at this point, we just lack the proper, skills to see through this charade, to understand what actually is going on. But
well, there is such a thing called community responsibility in law. And there is a basis for the idea of community responsibility, meaning that, you have let things happen. You have gone along with it. You were too concerned with your basketball game and your football game and Paris Hilton and all your silly nonsense that you live with in your sports and all that. And so you allowed things to happen. And the idea was someone quoted during the Second World War that that when they came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't care. And when they came for the Protestants, I didn't, I'm not a Protestant, so nothing to me. And when they came for this group or that group, I wasn't in that group, so what do I care? Well, finally, they came for me. And so the idea was that when you see things happening and you don't care because it really doesn't affect you and your home and your little area and the town that you live in, so why bother? Well, one day what goes around comes around. It will be your turn. And when it's your turn, everyone else in the world will be too busy to care one way or the other about what's happening to, in fact, you and your town. So don't look for the rest of the world to stand up and demand the protection and rights for you, because you never give a damn about anybody else when their rights are being taken. And so, there is something to be said for this idea of community responsibility. We just go along to get along, and we hope that it won't happen to us. Okay, so it's happening to the Jews, but thank God I'm not Jewish. Or later on, it's happening to blacks, but thank God I'm not black, so it's not happening to me. Well, one day it's going to happen to you. And when it does, there will be no Jews or blacks or Protestants or anybody else to come help you.
Well, that's right.
That's what I see.
Well, it's. I think we can begin, maybe to see the increments of this now at the start of it. I mean, for a while here now, then, since 2001, since the official lies about 9/11, since the official, excuses about going into other countries, like the UK, the US, even Sweden has troops in Afghanistan, etc. People might have been okay, I guess, if you know what I mean by the idea
Yeah,
that
of course.
Muslims are
Yeah.
being harassed in that sense. But now things are changing on that level too. If we look at this recent TSA debacle in the United States, where we now have people without turbans, without Muhammad as a middle name, being harassed, if you will, for these very things that the Muslims previously have been accused of carrying bombs or being
Yeah.
suspicious activity, etc., etc. But it's now being turned towards everybody, basically.
Everybody, everyone. Now, and all you got to do is go through an airport in America, and you won't do that but once. And but that's all part of what I'm talking about. It's
Sure.
the complete mutation of the human race, and so there's a very big science behind all of this. And I'm not talking to hear myself talk. I've been doing this kind of research and study, for 50 years. So I know what's going on. I know where it's going. I know where it's going to end up. I just don't want to be here when it happens, because when I drive down the street and see the children of the city and think about the young people today, young teenagers today, who are, they're just as human as anybody else, and they have their problems, but I know what's coming for them. I know that they will never know the world that I lived in when I was born in 1940. And by the time I was 8 years old, the war was over. America was a beautiful place at the time. I mean, it was supposedly a free country, and there was no pressure from SS and Gestapo or from the NKVD or the KGB, and the crushing of the human will and the human spirit. There was still a feeling of everybody could do what they wanted to do and be what they wanted to be. And so that feeling was a wonderful world to grow up in as a child. And so I look at my country today and look at the world today and where it's going, and I know there is an overshadowing power on the earth that is so fierce and so awesome that no one in power dares to go against it. No one. Presidents, kings, rulers, nobody will stand up for what is true anymore. Nobody will stand up for, and of course we don't have to now, because nobody seems to even know what truth is anymore to stand up for.
That's right.
And so I just see the collapse of human society. And when I hear people talking about the new age and the age of Aquarius, I believe that there is something legitimate about that concept of the astrological ages. We can get into that later too.
Sure.
But I don't see the new age of Aquarius, especially, well, if it's going to happen at all, it's not going to happen for another 350 years or more.
Sure.
Well, we're at least 300 years from the age of Aquarius, or maybe even closer to 400. Because according to the best calculations I've seen, and I mean the better calculations of the different ages, age of Pisces didn't even start till 325 AD. So if you take 2,160 years, which is the life of an age, 2,160 years from 325 AD, that puts you about 365 or 380 years from now.
Yeah, that's right.
So the age of Aquarius is nowhere near us. I mean, we're just in the dawning of the age of Aquarius, so to speak. But irrelevant of all that, the point I'm making is that we hear a lot about, the coming age of Aquarius is going to be a wonderful time when there'll be light and harmony and love. Well, I think you better go back and do your homework, because I don't think that's. I think you're totally wrong on that. I don't think the age of Aquarius is going to be very happy. I think it's going to be an awesome, evil, horrible thing that's going to happen to the world called the age of Aquarius. And I see no good coming out of it whatsoever. I see the whole human race being sucked into a darkness that the world has never known before. And the worst part of it is that there will be no one who will even remember that there was any light in the world to start with. So, when people say, about we'll need to get into that too, about my interest in New Age subjects and my interest in Helena Blavatsky
Sure, sure.
and Manly Palmer Hall and other people like that. I'm not stupid. I read and understand and study everything. I try to make myself at least conversational and at least intellectually aware of virtually every subject, so that if I'm sitting on a stage talking to someone, I know what they're talking about. Doesn't mean I'm married to them and I live with them. It just means I am aware, intellectually aware of who they are, what they believe, why they believe it. Like the Bible says, study to show yourself approved, so that when you're sitting with intelligent people and they are explaining to you what their view of something is, at least I can intellectually appear to be knowledgeable. I understand what they're saying. I understand why they're saying it. I know where it came from, and I know where it's going. And therefore I can show respect and be decent and a gentleman, but I can also speak with some intelligence at the same time, because I know the subject. Well, I have found that in America, if you are intellectually inclined, you better keep your mouth shut. Because here, if you don't know anything about basketball or football, you might as well just shut up. Because people are going to see you as an Al-Qaeda agent, or you must be working for the government, because you all use all those big words and read all them old silly books, and so you're not like us, beer drinking bunch of good old boy losers who are unemployed and losing their homes and watching ball games and got an IQ of 40. So you're not like us. You read and think and study too much, and people like you go to prison. And so I understand how people have got a misunderstanding of Jordan Maxwell and think there's something wrong with me because I talk about Helena Blavatsky and I've used her name, but I've used Adolf Hitler's name, and I wasn't married to him either.
Well, that's right. So, that's right. Well, that's a good point as well, and that is one thing I wanted to bring up. Regarding your work and your research, and regarding the time we're in now as well, in terms of the internet, when everybody can, have a voice, and that is both has advantages and disadvantages, of course, as well, and we all have to shows and what we want to focus on and so forth as well. But a lot of the criticism that is aimed towards you, Jordan, seems to stem from a few of these points that you brought up here. That you've enjoyed the work of Blavatsky, that you've enjoyed the work of Manly Palmer Hall, and the problem seems to be that these people are obviously associated with Theosophy and Freemasonry, and always when I look at your work, it's the same way for me. I don't feel, I don't agree with you on every single point. I don't align myself in that way to you, but I'm incredibly interested in what it is that you're talking about, and I see that this is the same thing when it comes to Blavatsky and Manly Palmer Hall in your relationship to their work as well. That you don't have to be a theosophist just because you understand the occult and important philosophical implications of the work that is being done.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm talking about. Right. I don't even know what to say anymore. If you know something, if you've studied something, if you're intellectually inclined to read and study what other people are thinking, or what great political, philosophical, or religious movements, where they came from and how they got started, if you are inclined to want to do that kind of research all your life, so that you can sit with the best of the best and intellectually be on their level, when you're, and I've been invited to sit and be on panels at UCLA and USC, and I've spoke at universities all over the country, and so I realize that if you're going to sit in front of an audience that's a very erudite and intelligent audience, and they're very worldly and intellectually aware, and if you want to defend your position, you had better actually sound like you've got an education instead of a blundering bimbo who's a beer-drinking airhead who's never read anything, never studied anything, don't know anything, haven't accomplished anything, and is totally worthless. and a loser, and you're losing your home, and your family's on drugs, and you've got no job, and you're going to criticize me because I've spent my whole life reading, studying, and questioning, and loving wisdom and knowledge and truth. And because of that, I don't fit in there. Because of that, I spoke about Adolf Hitler, so I must be a Nazi. Then one time I gave a lecture and I mentioned Stalin, so I must be a communist. And so people will jump on anything, and it's called, the word in a dictionary is called ad hominem attack. An ad hominem attack is an attack on someone's person, on their looks, upon their name, upon their family, upon, to attack them, because you don't have the brains to sit and discuss intelligently before a large audience anything with them. You can't sit with an audience of 100 people listening and intelligently, and with respect and honor and dignity of one gentleman talking to another, and converse with them. You can't do that. You don't have the brains. You don't have the education. So therefore, just badmouth them, their family, their mother, the way they dress. Do something to, And so that's what's been coming my way for a long time. People will quickly judge because I am different, because I don't look the same as they do. I don't go to their ball games. I'm not interested in their silly politics. I'm not like them, and because I'm not like them, I must be an Al-Qaeda agent or some kind of a communist or Nazi or something. And especially, I don't love the Lord, and I'm not a born-again, washed in the blood of the Lamb, saved by the Holy Ghost, and falling on the floor and giving my money to Benny Hinn and a faithful follower of TBN. So therefore, I obviously don't love the Lord. And so in their beer-drinking ignorance, they then claim that I must be some kind of a radical, maybe I'm a disinformation agent, or I'm a communist, or something. Something's wrong with me.
Well, exactly. And this is what's difficult and tricky when you come from a perspective of occult studies, when you have an audience, potentially then that comes from this, either from a materialistic, scientific, or as you brought out or highlighted in many cases, a religious background. These things won't really compute maybe in the way that you expect them to, because also people are very egocentric oriented, and they take this as kind of a personal attack, obviously, as well, instead of just removing themselves from the fact that they were aligned with a movement or an idea or a philosophy or what have you, and look at it with an objective point of view. So therefore, you become a Satanist or a Luciferian just because you entertain the idea of what Lucifer represented as a story or as a force or as an archetype. You know what I mean?
Precisely. And I've sat with, that's one of the things that I have always enjoyed doing, is being in the company of and sitting and discussing intelligently, listening, because you'd be surprised what you can find out if you just listen.
That's right.
Too. And I've spoke to audiences, I've spoke to all kinds of audiences. I have sat and talked with Jewish audiences. I have sat and round tables with rabbis and Jesuit priests. I have talked to Catholic groups, Masonic groups, skinhead groups. I'm well liked in the black community around the world, and rapping groups and movie star groups and political groups and non-political groups and all kinds of people. And the reason why is because I have an affection for the human race. And I don't want to condemn anyone, because the Bible clearly says God is the judge of mankind. You are not supposed to judge your fellow man and bear false witness against your neighbor. You just take care of your own private life before your God, and don't worry about your fellow man and whatever he's doing that God doesn't like. That's between him and his creator. That's none of your business. I don't care if someone's gay or if they're straight or if they're black or they're Chinese. I don't care. I care about the human race and I care about wisdom and knowledge and understanding and intellectual pursuits. That's what I care about. And you're not going to be able to be fully effective in talking to people if they perceive you instantly to be some goofy, ill-informed, unread, bigoted moron. No, I am always impressed when I hear people like Gore Vidal was one of my most favorite people, because he was a man, a gentleman, who was always the gentleman, a kind and interesting but fascinating and brilliant intellectual who looks at everything, who is always, and I've watched him when he is on the stage with other speakers. He listens to exactly what they're saying. He may have a better viewpoint, he may have more knowledge on the subject, but people who are intellectually and spiritually legitimately inclined are always ready to listen with respect to other people's views, to analyze what they're saying, to listen and try and pick up on the spirit of the person, pick up on the spirit of the person that's talking. What is he trying to tell us, and what is he trying to say? What are his motives? And listen to what he's saying. Analyze his thinking. And you do that because now you're in a position when it comes time for you to speak that you can now sound intelligent in your answer to that person. But if you're just a bigoted religious moron, like we have in America, all over this place, are religious people who love the Lord and will kill you, and bear false witness. They will lie on you. One goofball will come up with a story in his mind, and he passes it around to somebody else, and then that person passes it, and before you know it, it's all over town. Now it's got to be true, so now it goes to other towns. And given enough time with the internet, and today you are an Al-Qaeda agent, or you are a disinformation agent working for the government, or you're an NSA or CIA plant, or you are mentally disturbed and saw a flying saucer. I mean, you're all kinds of things. And so famous people and people who are in the public eye know that this is all part of living in a arrested development society where people do not care about what is true. They don't mind, especially Christians in America have no problem whatsoever in bearing false witness against their neighbor, about talking about their fellow man, ruining people's names in public, making false charges against people. I mean, America's rampant with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
this seems to be a quality.
Let me say, if you wanted to contact Steven Spielberg, good luck. There's no possible way. If you want to call George Lucas and talk to him for an hour, don't even bother, because you're not even going to get near him. If you want to talk to anybody in Hollywood, big movie stars, you're not going to get near them. Myself, I make myself available to the whole world. I put my name, my address, my phone number, my blood type. I put it all on the website for anybody to call me at any time of the day or night to talk with me, because I'm always open to talk to anybody, because I'm interested in people and knowledge and wisdom and understanding. So I'm always open to talk to anyone. I want to talk to everyone, and I try and answer, all my emails and my phones all the time. How many people in the public eye do that? I put my name, my address, my phone number on the website, so that anybody wants to come to see me, knows where I live, they know what my address is. Steven Spielberg doesn't do that. George Lucas doesn't do that. Other people in the public eye don't do that, but I do. And because of that, I always try and be upfront with everybody, tell them the truth about what I feel about this or that, what my thoughts are about this. And if it happens that I'm talking to a Christian, immediately I must be a Satanist, a devil worshiper. Now it's out there on the web, he's a devil worshiper. I'm just totally disgusted with the human race, because I know we as a human creatures on the earth are doomed. because we can't find our way out of a paper bag. And anyone who's on the cutting edge, intellectually or spiritually, trying to do anything to save the human race is going to be run out of town.
Yes, and
They're going to be
that's
tar and feathered and made to look like a freak. And
well,
as far as I'm concerned, that's what's happened to me.
that's a good point as well, because as eloquently described in the Matrix movies about these people are trying to rescue people out of the situation that they're in, the system of enslavement. They portray that also, that be careful in that sense, because these people are actually going to try to fight to protect the system that they're enslaved with.
That's
or
exactly
by.
right.
And maybe, Jordan, as well, maybe we're not talking about humans anymore in that sense. Maybe this initial few steps that we talked about earlier about the dehumanization, the fact that humanity is being turned into something else. I think that I know that this is, in the works, this is being planned on the level of creating cyborgs, implanting humans with microchips, computer brain interface, things like that as well. But we might already look at a kind of a moral, perversion, if you will, that has taken place in that sense as well. So on the psychological level, we might not even be talking about human beings and the human family anymore either, if you know what I mean.
Well, of course, I totally agree with that. I've questioned that for a long time. I'm a big believer in the very, very real possibility that there are people here who are in fact not human. They merely look like humans. And if you think that's pretty off the wall, you better go back and read the book of Genesis in the Bible when it talks about the sons of God. And there's been a whole work done by Lana Cantrell. In her book many years ago, Lana Cantrell came out with a book called The Greatest Story Never Told. Lana Cantrell. Mm. And her book was, I don't know, a thick 800, 600, 700-page book, upon which much of that story that she was telling in her book many, many years ago was also being brought out to in the modern day by Zecharia Sitchin. Lana Cantrell talked about the Anunnaki who came here, how they designed the human beings and how we were designed by them, and who these gods were that the Sumerians talked about. Lana Cantrell talked about that a long time ago.
Interesting.
And of course, I was in business. I was a business partner with Zecharia Sitchin. I was in business with him. I helped send him to 7 different countries. I helped get some of his books published, not all of them, but at one time he and I were business partners. So I had an opportunity to actually sit with Zecharia behind the scenes that nobody knew anything about, and I could sit and talk with him. I got him speaking engagements from Portland and New York and Los Angeles. I actually financed a science conference in which he spoke there. And so I was in business with Zecharia Sitchin. I have been behind the scenes. I've been the supporter of many different people from various backgrounds. And David Icke is one, too. And
sure.
All kinds of people that I have tried to help and promote when I believe that they're decent and intelligent people who have something of value and interesting. Doesn't mean I was married to Zecharia Sitchin.
That's right.
Doesn't mean I was married to David Icke. It means I just appreciated their intelligence and their work. I thought it had value, and I wanted to do something to help promote them and their work. And I've got long lists of people. I can give you many, many names of people that I have worked with, promoted them, helped them to get on radio and television behind the scenes, and was in business with people, astronauts, all kinds of people behind the scenes, because I respected their person, I respect their work. I love wisdom, I love knowledge, I love understanding, and so I wanted to promote people who I believe, have something really important to say. And I think it's fascinating and interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily true in every single case.
Sure.
But I think it's intellectually stimulating, because it's not on toilet paper. These are very bright people writing with some brilliant research, and so I just want to help to promote that kind of intellectual achievement.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
And
it's a good
so
suggestion in that way, because I mean, this is about opening up these fields as well, and I mean, obviously, all as the case with all work, it should be reexamined, it should be looked upon again, it should be criticized. That's on an academic level, and that's okay, you know.
well, of course.
But then at the same time, it doesn't mean that one has to agree with everything on it. I mean, I've said that about
No, of
Sitchin's
course
work,
not.
you know, that this is so important because it opens up an area of thought for people, and they can re-examine and question it over again. Wait a minute, can he actually be onto something here? And then I also, on top of that, respect people like Michael Heiser, who has looked twice at Sitchin's work, and he come to another conclusion, and that's fine. That's academic, you know what I mean?
That's my feeling, is that I'm always interested in the academic, intellectual approach to everything. But I am a highly spiritual person. I have no religion, but I'm highly spiritual in that I appreciate and believe beyond any question that there is a higher spiritual mind in the universe that men have called God. But I'm also well aware that you should define your terms. Just because someone said they believe in God, well, first of all, God is dog spelled backwards. So what are you talking about when you say God? I'll tell you what I believe when I'm using the word God. I believe that there is a profoundly deep and powerful mind in the universe that watches all things, and there's no injustice anywhere. There is no injustice in the universe. It is what it is. It is a very powerful presence, a spiritual, intellectual presence in the universe, and there's a reason for all things. Everything has a reason for being, and there seems to be some kind of a rhyme and a reason of synchronicity of why people meet certain people at a particular point, why certain things happen to individuals, good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. There's always a reason for everything, and I believe that there is a highly intelligent, spiritually powerful, intellectual power in the universe that watches over all living things. And so it's like the Bible said, God is a spirit. Well, I understand that. It doesn't mean that it's someone you can shake hands with and have dinner with, but it means that there is an intelligence behind every plant, the design of a flower, the design of an insect, and there's a highly incredible intelligence, mathematical, to the whole universe, to the electronic universe that holds planets, and holds the moon up. Very few people I talk with have even wondered what holds the moon in place. It just sits there. Well, the whole universe, we now know, is electrical. So it's an electricity. It's some sort of an electrical charge that holds the earth and holds the moon where it is, causes the sun to be what it is. So all I'm saying is that if you're looking at the world from a mundane, ignorant, ill-informed, unread point of view, my God, let me give you a classic example. I was in San Diego working at a company down there, and one night I came out doing the Hale-Bopp comet or the Halley's comet, one of the two. I think it was Hale-Bopp comet. And I came out of my condo, and there was a bunch of high school kids in the parking lot. And they were all very nice kids. They were just regular teenagers. And they were all looking at the comet. And so they were standing by my car. And so I stood there with them and talked with them, and we were looking at the comet together. And one of the kids said to me, one boy said to me, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, it's a comet." And he said, "Well, what is a comet?" And I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, well, what is that?" Mm-hmm. So I just explained to them. I didn't pontificate like a pope, but I just explained to them, what a comet is and why it looks the way it does, etc. And then another young man, I can't impress upon you how nice these kids were. They were just regular, nice teenagers.
Sure.
And one of the boys said, if you know this kind of stuff, we all have a question we'd like to ask you. And I said, sure. And he said, where does the sun go when it goes down? Where does it go? And I was shocked.
Yeah.
I said, what are you talking about? You don't know where. What do you mean the sun? Where does it go? He said, where does it go? I mean, we see it come up, we see it go down, but where does it go when it goes down?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God,
Yeah.
I cannot believe that these kids are in school and they don't even know where the sun goes.
We're back into the era of superstition almost in one way again.
Oh
and,
my God!
You know,
yes.
this is
this
connects with ancient ideas as well on that level, where man speculated more. And although we're living in a scientific age, the evidence of that is not present at all in these times as well.
Not at all.
Jordan, let's do this right now. Let's begin to round things up here for the first hour. We'll take a short little break, you know, and return with more here. But obviously, I encourage people to, first of all, head on over to your website, jordanmaxwell.com. That has all the information that you need in terms of Jordan, his work, what he's been doing throughout the years. You'll find books and DVDs and a lot of things on there as well, obviously, that you need to take a look at, and obviously help Jordan out in his work. Get a hold of a copy if you can. Is there anything you'd like to recommend, Jordan? Let's say that we have someone who's new to your work and someone who has been into your work for a long time. What would you recommend to those people?
Well, I've got a lot of new videos, which for the first time, I was able to do technically a lot better with, because I've never ever had the wherewithal to put my work together to look very professional. But then again, I guess there's some kind of a mystique in having something that looks like it's underground. Well, my work has always looked like it was an underground production, because I never had one dime to do anything with, so I had to do the best I could with nothing.
Sure.
To put my work out, because when you spend your whole life researching, studying, and writing, and cross-referencing, and doing that kind of thing, you're not out making money as a businessman. You're studying 24/7 and trying to stay alive and do my work.
Yeah.
So that I've never been able to put materials out that look very good, because I don't have anything to do anything with. But I have had some people come in to help me and buy me a computer and show me how to use a computer. Some young people at least had that much of an honor for my person and my work, and they bought me a computer and showed me how to use it. So now I sit by myself on my own with no one, and at least I can download pictures now and put in documents and create my work to look, at least now it's intelligible, and now it looks halfway decent. And so I've done some real serious materials that I've known for many, many years, but I finally have the opportunity technically to download and do some really, and from what I consider to be incredible research on the symbols in the Bible and all the occult symbols, because I've been talking about this stuff for 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, and so now I've got some brand new videos out there. And I've just got, I get about maybe 100 emails a day, every day.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different question, and because it's only me, I don't have a secretary, I don't have people working around the clock and a big corporation. It's just me. I live by myself, and I just try and do the best I can with nothing. And so I've got some really interesting things, I think, and I've got some really new stuff coming out. I got 2 or 3 new videos coming out that I put together by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's coming out very soon. I'll have those out. But there's one called King Solomon's Temple.
That's right. That's
King
a new
Solomon's
one. New one out.
Yeah, it's one of the new ones. And the what's the other one? The Messiah.
Messiah, right?
And there's Dawn of a New Day, and a couple of others that are all all pretty much new. And the Messiah and all of these videos, I would say, are not MGM musicals. They are not high-powered, musicals and interesting, dazzling, entertainment. they're very much a quiet, intellectual downloading of research that's taken me some 50 years to do. So it's not going to be dazzling Walt Disney. It's not going to be a big production. It's just an intellectual discussion of things which most people have never heard of. And so, sometimes it may even sound a little dry, but it's just me by myself doing the best I can with what I have to work with.
Well, I have to say,
so,
if you have a brain to receive it, it's a treat for the mind, and you don't need the bells and whistles to go along with it. If you ask me, this goes deeper than that, and to entertain people on an intellectual level is the most important thing. If you ask me, Jordan, the content is most important,
that's
not the
what
presentation.
I feel.
Yes,
exactly. I feel that I'm always far more interested in the intellectual value of what is a person's work. I mean, I sit and I don't care how they're presenting it. I don't care if they're 80 years old and they're slow and they're presenting. I want to know, what are they saying?
That's right. Yeah.
What is the proof of what they're saying, and where is it that they're getting their information from? Because it's fascinating, and I want to know more about it. I don't care how it's presented. And so I just want to let everybody know it's not, any of my videos are going to be rather quiet, but intellectually stimulating for sure, because I've got stuff out there that's very, very controversial. But that's who I am. That's what I do. I look at the world from a totally different point of view. I'm totally unimpressed with the regular mundane world of academics. I couldn't care less about academics, colleges, universities.
Sure.
I've been all over the world. I've talked to all kinds of people behind the scenes. I've been in the company of people that you have no idea in the world that I even know. And so I'm not impressed any longer with academics, especially the college and universities. I know who set up the universities. I know where the money came from. I know what the college degree is all about. I know what that stuff is all about. And I know the people who run the planet are the same people who run the institutions of higher education, because they are training people to be like chimps. They're training their chimps and monkeys to do what they tell them to do in a courtroom and in commerce. And so I know how this stuff works. No, I'm not interested in the normal, accepted flow of academia. I'm interested in the stuff they don't talk about.
That's right.
I want to know all the stuff that academics don't talk about. That's what I want to talk about. So most of my materials that you will see on my website, if you go to What's New, there's a button at the top of the home page that says What's New. There's a lot of new stuff there, all my new videos and stuff. So,
excellent.
Yeah, I appreciate the plug.
Absolutely, of course, it needs to be said. JordanMaxwell.com. Go over there, take a look at some of the new material. If you've been into Maxwell's work for a time, if you're completely brand new, even more reason for you, obviously, to go over there and take a look for yourself. It's a real treat for the mind, as we talked about. So that is excellent. JordanMaxwell.com. All right, Jordan, let's take a little short break here, and we'll be back with more.
About the beauty of the heavens and what could be out there, and and what is the implications of the size of our universe, and just the wonder of creation. No, they have no wonder about it at all. It's all very, very sterile. It's all very, very nothing. It's just a job to them. This star is named this and that, and it's part of this and that, and we work for the government, and the government gives us our contracts, and we don't give a damn about anything spiritual or philosophical or anything in the wonder of the universe. We don't give a damn about none of that. It's just all very, very sterile, very heartless, and therefore our science has given us, the world we live in today, which cares nothing for individual spirituality, cares nothing for family arrangements. It cares. The science today is nothing more than a religion.
That's right.
And I have often said that religion should be and could be a science, while on the other hand, science is a religion. We don't, in America especially, we're famous all over the world for having no scientists, zero. I think we've got maybe a handful, maybe 12 scientists in America. The rest are all on the payroll. All they do is what they're told to do. They get their checks from the government,
Right.
and they know what to say and what not to say. And if they open their mouth and question something that's out of place, like out of place artifacts, or something very strange in science, if they bring nothing. And so why? It's because purposely great people like Nikola Tesla, our royal wife was another man,
Sure.
royal wife who, nobody's ever heard of royal wife. Nobody in America cares one way or the other.
Very few in Europe too, Jordan. Same thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very, very sad. Now I could go down the line and name off great minds who have contributed awesome to the well-being of the human race, who actually are not only not known, but what little bit is known of them are cursed and belittled and drugged through the dirt, and are presented as enemies of the human race. So I realize that the people who are running this planet today have in mind to mutate the human race, and to mutate or to what I would call intervene in mankind's natural evolution. We in America are now living under something called arrested development. We can no longer think. We can no longer use our minds to judge the rightness or the wrongness of anything, because we have nothing to judge anything by. We're not educated. We're very poorly educated. We Americans can't find their own country on a map. They're ignorant. They're ill-informed. They're unread. They're pompous and arrogant and self-centered and egotistical. They're given to silliness, and it's just a horrible, horrible place to have to now operate in if you have a spirit and if you are intellectually inclined and spiritually inclined and have feelings. America is a horrible place to have to clean that up. They will immediately be called into the office, relieved of their position. Their jobs are lost. Their paycheck is gone. No more grants from Gestapo or SS Gestapo.
Right.
The Führer in Berlin will see to it that they will no longer have a job, and they'll be chased out of town. So I sit with these scientists. I sit with authors and lecturers and teachers and astronauts and FBI agents and mafia officials. I've been all over the world. I sit and talk with people for the last 50 years. I know what's going on. And so I noticed something else that's very frightening in relation to the human race being mutated. And that is that every time a great master, someone who was a great mind, a great teacher, or a great inventor, or someone who's done something momentous for the human race, every time that person dies, everything that they have accomplished is immediately erased off the face of the earth. I could give you so many examples. Some of the more obvious examples were Nikola Tesla.
Sure.
Nikola Tesla, anyone who's done any homework on that man, realizes he gave us the modern day world, period. Radio, television, electronics, nuclear, television. I mean, all kinds of profound things, and alternating current. He's lit up the world. He gave us radio. Radio was invented by Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest geniuses the world ever known. And yet, today, especially in America, nobody's ever heard of him. They wonder what football team he played on, or did he play with the Lakers? Because in America, we don't know from. We're being mutated out of our humanity and into some kind of a monstrosity of a creature that only responds to stimuli, only responds to orders. You know, like you can dream up the pictures of the poor people under Nazi Germany or under Stalin in Russia, in some kind of a fascist totalitarian world state. And that's not far-fetched because, you know, we've had so many writers and authors talking about it in 1984 and Brave New World. Well, I think we've way passed all of those stories now. I think we are seriously on the way to the mutation of the human family from being normal, regular human beings with caring and concern for each other and families. I don't think the human family arrangement is going to last a whole lot much longer.
Right.
And so I see that the entire Earth, the whole globe, is being commercially mutated so that we will have lost all wisdom, knowledge, understanding, the love of history, the love of mystical secrets of the earth, all of the great and wondrous things that the earth has held as a mystery. The very heavens themselves are such a wonderful and beautiful mystery.
Yeah.
And when I talk to scientists here at JPL, that's right here in Los Angeles, Jet Propulsion Lab, and I go over there and talk to the astronomers and scientists and physicists, and I am just amazed that they have no concept of wonderment like a child, just to wonder. Well, thank you, Henry, for inviting me. And I know we've tried to do this before and it didn't work out, but I'm very delighted to be with you today.
Excellent. And there's just so many points, so many areas of your particular study and research that are worth to highlight, they're worth to talk about and note and so forth. Obviously, we are not going to be able to cover them all in these 2 hours here that we're going to do today, 2 segments. But I'd like to, I guess, open up the floor just a little bit to you, Jordan, here at the beginning and ask if there's anything. Well, if I put it this way, the world is changing now drastically and very, very quick at this point. What are some of the most pressing issues, you know, that you think are important to highlight that the world is facing right now, Jordan?
I think that probably one of the most important things that's happening to us today that worries me the most is that the human race is purposely, according to a well-laid scheme, the human race is purposely being mutated. We're being scientifically mutated from being the kind of humans that we were before to a different kind of creature on the earth in the coming 1,000 years that's coming. I don't think the human family, like we exist today, with parents and grandparents and human feelings and emotions, etc. I don't know for sure, but it appears to me that that's not going to be the case in the future, that the human family is going to be a completely different creation in the future. And that's what scares me the most, because the children will not be allowed to be children. There won't be any real emotions between people.